Welcome, everybody. I am with the Consider and Contact team from Hemnet, and we are going to discuss how they are using Jira product discovery to support their discovery habits. To dive in, let's just do a quick round of introductions. Michelle, do you want to get us started?
Yeah, thank you so much, Teresa, for having us. We're super excited to share our story and our journey with the Jira discovery tool. My name is Michelle Ria, and I'm a product manager in our consumer domain.
Excellent. Carl, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. My name is Carl, and I'm a UX designer.
Excellent. Matthias?
Yeah, I'm Matthias, and I'm a software engineer in the team.
All right, so we've got a full product trio. I like it. Does one of you want to tell me a little bit about just what your team is responsible for? What product are you working on? Set the scene, especially we have a global audience and a lot of folks may not be familiar with Hemnet's even domain.
Exactly. So Hemnet is Sweden's most visited property portal. We have 1.3 million visits per day. And the main job to be done on Hemnet is to match buyers with their next home. And we are working in, like you mentioned, Team Consider and Contact, and we are in our consumers domain. So we are mainly working with the buyer and homeowner experiences at Hemnet.
Okay. And I know we previously featured your team, right, on the Product Talk blog about bringing the continuous discovery habits, like running it as a trio experiment and then growing it across the organization from there. Do you want to just give a little bit, a quick summary of your discovery habits at the time that you decided to switch to Jira?
Absolutely. I think, Kalle, you're the best at answering that one.
Yeah. So when I started at Hemnet, that was 4 years ago. We did work with the opportunity solution tree, but there were other parts of like the continuous discovery that we hadn't started working with yet. So we didn't work with product trios. I don't think we worked in a super structured way with assumption testing and so on. So it's kind of been a journey from there where we we read your book and we tried to do it more by the book and work in a more structured way with product discovery and research and everything like that. And we have been using Miro for creating the opportunity solution tree and structuring our opportunities and so on.
Okay, so I understand you recently transitioned from using Miro to Jira Discovery as your tool for managing your discovery work. I want to dig in a little bit to how you were using Miro, kind of what drove the change, like the need to change, and then we can kind of get into how you're using Jira Discovery today.
Yeah, sure. I can share my screen and we can start in Miro then. So yeah, we've copied in some previous opportunity solution trees we've been working on in Miro. So this is the first one we could find from 2020. So that was about when I started and before we started working in the trio and everything. Let's see if I can zoom in. So I think this is an example where it actually looks pretty structured, but it gets a lot more messy than this, I would say. Yeah, we had the different opportunities and solutions here. I don't think, like I said, I don't think we had started talking a lot about assumption tests and so on by this point. So we were talking more about just different experiments that we could do under the solutions. And then I can show you a more recent example as well. This was from 2023. And yeah, we use OKRs as well. So they are kind of the outcome in this case in our opportunity solution tree. Then under that we have different opportunities, we have solutions, we have assumptions that are kind of grouped by the different solution names. We have assumption tests and some findings from research and so on. And I guess like the biggest challenge for us when we were working with this is like as the opportunity solution tree grew and as we worked with more and more different opportunities, it was kind of hard to manage everything here. So what we ended up doing was actually we created a new opportunity solution tree and kind of scrapped the old one after a while because it became too messy to handle all the different data points and opportunities and everything we added to it. And that didn't feel like the best thing to do either, because sometimes there were actually like valuable insights and so on that we wanted to carry with us. So then we tried to copy those, but it felt kind of limiting in a way. Easy to start with using Miro as long as it's not that big in scope, but as soon as it becomes bigger and we have more opportunities and so on, it was harder to handle. So that's why we came into this Jira tool. Or do you have any questions about this before I move on to Jira?
Yeah, it seems like Miro's strength can also turn into its weakness, right? So it's unstructured, it makes it easy to get started, but then as you have a lot of data, that unstructured starts to make it hard to move things around.
Exactly.
Was the challenge that you faced really that like we needed to move a lot of things, or when we needed to add things, we were constantly moving things? Tell me a little bit about like what were the limitations you were running into?
I mean, just like layout stuff here in Miro can be kind of a hassle when you have a lot of stuff. Like say we decide here somewhere that we want to add a new solution, but then we already have all of these connections and so on. And then to add something here, we have to make room in between these two and create a new arrow that goes from the opportunity to here. And it seemed to us like we spent a lot of time just trying to manage the layout of this, which didn't seem like the point really when we started it. So then we tried to maybe simplify it in some ways, like you can see from here, for example, we have the solutions here and we have the assumptions, and these are kind of matched together, but we didn't put arrows in between them, because if we did that, it would become even more messy. So yeah, we tried to get around it in different ways.
Yeah, I just want to add that, like, I think also just for the team, I mean, even if we have these sessions where everyone gets to see it and we talk about it and talk about different solutions and opportunities. I think it makes it even more difficult for someone not actively working in this OST to recognize it and understand it. So every time we change something in structure or the colors or the system, it's gonna like be difficult for team members to kind of get more involved as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of details here that I didn't even go into, but we had like different color codings and labels and stuff to see like, is this work in progress? How high is the priority? We tried to figure out different systems, but I don't think we really stuck to a system either, even like internally in our group. We just tried different stuff and became kind of messy over time.
I think another challenge was also when the company changed goals or directions from say like from one quarter or from one year. We found ourselves creating new trees all the time, and that became challenging basically.
Yeah, let's get a little bit into the transition. So tell me, did you evaluate tools? How did you pick Jira for this? Tell me a little bit of that story.
Yeah, I mean, the reason we used Jira for this was, I think one of the reasons was that we already use Jira for delivery and for our sprint plannings and so on. And then we actually have a colleague who had tried this tool called the Jira Discovery, or the Jira Product Discovery. So she had tried it a little bit, but her team hadn't really started working with it. But then we saw this tool and we're like, okay, we already work with Jira. We have this problem creating our opportunity solution through Miro, so maybe we can just try this tool. So I don't think we evaluated any other tools before trying this one. actually.
And was Jira product discovery available to you as part of your existing Jira license?
Wow, I think it is actually. Yeah,
Okay.
we didn't have to go. Yeah, I think it is as
So
a part
there
of
wasn't
our
like a
license.
purchase decision or purchase process. It was just you could just try it.
Yes, I believe that's how it was. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so let's get a little bit into just what how you're using Jira. Tell me, and I would love to hear a little bit about the transition. Like, you were using Miro, you're exploring a new tool. How did that go?
I mean, we still want the kind of opportunity solution tree structure and try to work with that. This tool isn't specifically built or designed to create an opportunity solution tree. You can do any structure you want to, basically. And there's no tree view really in the tool. So what we have is this kind of table view, but then we tried in different ways to kind of replicate a tree using this view. So we have the opportunities as categories here, and they group the different solutions under every opportunity. And then if I go into a specific solution, we can look at this one. So we're working, just to give a really short background, we're working with homeowners who want to get a valuation on their home. And we're looking at different ways on how we can improve those valuations. And this was one of the solutions for users to be able to add the condition of their home so we can give a more accurate valuation. So what's good here is like we can add insights from research and a short description of the solution and so on. We can work with a text tool here where we can add anything basically, or links or anything that we want to. So I've added some different findings from our research about this. We have an insights tab here where we can add just like a short snippet or something, some kind of key insight about this solution, where we can also link to the source. So in this case, it's a survey that we did about this solution. And then one thing that we saw as a benefit of this tool as well is that it's linked to our sprint board. So we can also follow the delivery here on this specific solution. Instead of creating our own system in Miro with different colors and so on, we can actually use the tools we already are using in Jira. So here's different user stories connected to this solution, and there's different tasks here. So it's linked both ways, right? We can see from the product discovery, we can follow the delivery, and from the delivery, we can see what discovery and research we've done on a specific solution before we started with delivery.
Matthias, do you find that as engineers are building out stories, they are referencing your discovery materials?
I don't think the engineers, so far at least, that we have like been actively maybe doing the linking, but or rather from this end, if you go to the product discovery board, I would say that yeah, like in the delivery here, you can directly create a story and that gets linked. I'm not sure if that's I mean, in our case, we have examples of an engineer doing it, except myself, because I'm in the trio, actually. But I do find it, I think also how we name things, you know, the story names, that we are kind of connecting them to what we're actually doing or what we have kind of researched when it comes to the opportunities and solutions.
I could see a couple like really big benefits of this with time.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of engineers aren't used to having that full context of the discovery, but if it's right there in the tool, I could see with time having engineers get more and more involved and seeing more of that bigger picture. And then same with as you build, inevitably in delivery, additional discovery questions come up. And it's a nice way to then have that feedback loop of like, we have an open question as we're building this. How do we push that back in discovery?
Exactly. I think it is something we have done a lot together so far. So we have like kind of regular team sessions once a week. And I think it's really powerful that you're able to be here in the Oost and like kind of start from here. Like, okay, we have these things that we were thinking about, like different solutions. We weigh them against each other. Which should we try? And then from here, you can do like, okay, we want to actually do this. I'm going to create a Jira ticket, and then you go to Jira. So like, I think it's good that like as a team, you get to see the whole process, the whole flow from like the start to kind of starting to do working with it. And that has been a big difference with this tool, that it's much easier to visualize, because otherwise you've been in Miro, not everyone is comfortable with how we structure it. And then you kind of like, almost like maybe the trio already prepared something in Jira, so you lose that connection as well. So at least you have the connection. And then, I mean, you know, in reality, I don't think like every engineer every day is going to go into, you know, back and forth. But I still think, like you say, like it does create a connection, and you get to see it more often than you would otherwise.
I could also imagine, like with time, like when you're doing sprint planning meetings, you can start in this tool and show, like, this is the opportunity we're working on. By the way, it's linked right here from your user story, and start to kind of build that muscle of it's all in the same tool. Rather than we all know, like, we can put links to Miro boards in our user story cards, and we're never going to click through to them.
No, exactly. No, and that's exactly what we're doing, actually. So I think that's really good.
Tell me a little bit about, okay, so I understand that the Jira product discovery tool doesn't have support for opportunity solution trees built in. So for this view that we're looking at a page called All Opportunities. It looks like you have elements called opportunities and elements called solutions. How did you implement that in Jira product discovery? Do they just have, I'm not super familiar with the tool, so like, do they just have element types and you get to define them however you want?
Yeah, basically. It's like, it's basically just like a big data table, and you can add categories, you can add tags, and then you can filter them or group them in different ways. So it's a really, I mean, I think you could create almost any structure you want to, basically. But then what is kind of limiting maybe is how you then view it, because you still get this table view, or I can show you maybe a bit later, but there are some different types of views you can get here. But that's the thing maybe we're missing most now, is some kind of tree view where you can actually see the connection a bit easier between different levels and so on. And maybe in the best case, because in the Miro we had, I don't know, what was it, like 6 different levels in the tree. And that is hard to create here. So it's more structured, but maybe a bit more limited than Miro as well.
So you have opportunities are a category, solutions are a category, assumption tests are a category?
So opportunities are a category, but solutions in this context is called an idea. And this is kind of built into the tool. So I can just try to create one here. So if I create an idea, I create a new row in this table. Let's see where it ended up. It's probably okay. Yeah, but it creates a new row in the table, and by default it doesn't have a category. So after we create the idea or the solution, we then tag it with a category, and then it's grouped like this. Yeah.
So the atomic element here is ideas.
Yes.
And then we can categorize ideas, and you're using categories to represent opportunities. Exactly. And that's your link between a solution and an opportunity.
Yeah.
What about outcomes?
So we work with OKRs. So we've added the objectives and the key result here as, I think these are, I don't remember what this type of element is called. Maybe it's a tag or something like that. But you can give this any name you want to, and you can change the color and how it's displayed here. But basically, we've added for every opportunity we have added the objective and the key result, and we use those as our outcomes.
Okay, so then you can go to your all opportunities page, filter by that tag, and get the equivalent of your opportunity solution tree for that outcome.
Yes, and that's maybe I can go into that now because that's what we've done here as well. You can see on the left hand here we have like different pages or categories. So these are different product areas that we're working in, and these are connected to different objectives and key results. And what you can do is you can create these views that are already filtered. So if you see here, the filter is already applied for a specific objective. So I kind of like pre-filtered and then saved that view, so you don't have to go in here every time you want to look at a different part of the tree and do that manually. So we already done it and saved it as a custom view. And we've done the same thing here for buyer efficiency is another, it's connected to another objective, basically.
And can you nest categories? Like, can you create a sub opportunity?
No, and that was one of the like hurdles we came to. Like that's the good thing about Miro, that you can keep on creating these different levels and you can expand the tree in different directions. So you can't do that here. Instead, like what we do is basically try to just create more specific opportunities that don't have any sub opportunities in this case, and then we group them in different ways.
So this is essentially the bottom of your opportunity space. It's the very specific opportunities rather than the whole structure.
Yeah, that's a limitation in the tool, you could say.
Do you find that you miss that part? Like, is it helpful to like have that visual somewhere else, or are you finding this is adequate?
I think so far we think it's adequate, but I mean, yeah, it is limiting in some ways. Sometimes we have these discussions about an opportunity and if it's specific enough or if it's too generic, and then I think it's kind of nice to be able to do these different levels instead. Like instead of getting stuck in a discussion about how the specific the opportunity should be, you can just, if you have a tree view, you can do the sub opportunities and so on and go from there. So I think it works for us, but it would be better if there was a tree view as well.
Yeah, it's almost like you're creating an opportunity backlog, and to make it work, you're focusing on your specific opportunities, but you're losing a little bit of that nested structure of this opportunity contributes to this bigger opportunity. And then what about, are you running assumption tests? Do you have a way to document that in this tool?
Yeah, so if I go into the solution again, what we've done is really basic here. So when we've done an assumption test, we've just added to the text here as documentation. So this is an assumption test that we did, and we added the results here from a survey, basically. And what we've done as well that I can show you, if you go back to the delivery here, we've also added these tickets in our sprint board when we do an assumption test, so it's visible for the entire team as well, that we are, this sprint we're looking at these different assumptions and we're going to do this, maybe we're going to do a survey or we're going to do an interview or test it somehow, so it's visible in the same way as delivery tickets are, which I think is kind of nice as well, so everyone in the team knows what we're working on.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so anything else? We've covered a lot of ground here. I think we've covered kind of the top level elements of outcomes, opportunities, solutions, assumption tests. Anything else that you're finding helpful with this tool or limitations with the tool that you think people should know about?
Yeah, one limitation we saw since we were using the categories for the opportunities, but the category is just a grouping of other content, so it can't you can't add any other data to the opportunity itself, which is kind of a limitation. So if we say, for example, we have these different opportunity evaluation criteria, and in Miro we usually had like a post-it or something by the opportunity that we fill in. So what we've done here is kind of a workaround that the first row under every category is an idea as well in this tool, but we named it in the same way as the opportunity. So then we can add all the data and different stuff here if we have something on the opportunity level that we want to add. So that's kind of a workaround that makes it, I mean, it works. It just takes a bit longer to add an opportunity because then you have to do 2 clicks instead of 1. Let's see, anything else? Yeah, we also have this custom view we work a lot with A/B tests. And then there we kind of have a different way to evaluate them compared to when we just look at solutions and assumption tests and so on. So we'll have different criteria here that we can fill in, and it all results in an experiment score. So then this tool is pretty good as well. We used to do this in Miro as well, but here we can automatically sort by the experiment score, for example, and we can adjust the weighing of these different criteria, and there's a lot of like calculations we can do. So I think this would be really hard to replicate in Miro.
And is this you mentioned these are A/B tests. Are you A/B testing all of your releases, or is this experiments that you're running as part of your discovery efforts?
Yeah, we have. I mean, for some specific areas we're working on, we're doing A/B tests, like more optimizing for a certain outcome. So we don't A/B test everything. So that's why it's kind of separated here as well. We're going into different parts of the product depending on like, are we doing A/B tests or are we working in this opportunity space?
Gotcha. And tell me a little bit about how do you distinguish an assumption test versus your A/B tests? What does that look like in practice for a potential solution?
I guess like the A/B tests we're more limited on what we can actually do A/B tests on. First of all, it needs to have a certain amount of traffic. We need to have a really clear goal or outcome that we want to optimize for. So I mean, we do a lot of just improving the product in general, where an A/B test wouldn't be the best way to do it, I think. So yeah, it's a more narrow scope for the A/B tests, I would say.
Okay. So just sort of I know A/B testing, a lot of teams use it in one of 2 ways. One is we have a new design. We're trying to compare design A to design B. Maybe it's for conversion rate optimization or some other sort of optimization. And that, I think, is a part of discovery. Then there's the other A/B testing, where a lot of people are A/B testing to measure the impact of a feature over time. And so they're gating a release with A/B testing. It sounds like you're doing a lot of the former. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say so as well. Yeah. We don't want to overdo it either with the A/B test, because as I said, like there's some requirements like we need to meet to even think about doing an A/B test with the traffic and so on. And parts of Hemnet we can easily do A/B tests on, other parts we can't do them. So it would be really hard to have it as a gatekeep as well, like how we can't release any feature without A/B testing. That would stop us from doing a lot of discovery, probably.
And then what takeaways do you have if you were taught, let's say another team reached out and said, we're thinking about moving to Jira product discovery for our opportunity solution trees? What advice would you have for them?
So I think like what we did at least was that we started really small. We didn't have all of these views and categories and so on when we started. I think we just had this first view the basic structure with the first thing we did was trying to figure out, can we even do like a tree view in this tool? So then we tried it out with the categories and the ideas, and that was about it when we started. Then we added the different views and filters and so on as we went. So I guess that is the recommendation from us, at least, to start small and iterate instead of trying to add everything at once.
I think it was also kind of needs driven. I mean, it was kind of a coincidence, I think, that someone else on Hemnet had tried this, because I think we had a need for something like it, because we had like in the team gotten that feedback in a couple of retros, like, you know, it's hard to see the connection, why we're doing what we're doing. You're doing things in the trio, and even if we talk about it, it's difficult to see that. So I think this was also kind of, when we started looking at it, we weren't sure if we could make that connection like we saw before to the sprint board, so it was more clear. But when we found that, I think that was also a good thing. So I think like having that, I think it helps having that need. So if you feel like you're working in a Miro or whatever, and that works for you, of course that's, you know, but yeah, I think for us it has helped being more structured like that.
I was gonna say that as well, like depending on who asked the question, like, should we start using this tool? I would say, like, if you're completely new to working with continuous discovery and so on, I wouldn't start here. I would, I don't know, start with a whiteboard or Miro or something a bit simpler. Because like, if we didn't have the basics of working with the product trio, and I think we have pretty good habits for research, and we talk to users regularly and so on and so forth. So if we didn't have all that, this wouldn't be like my top priority to start digging into a tool. So maybe for, yeah, as Matthias said, if you feel that you have the need and you recognize the problem we had of the Miro just growing and being hard to manage over time, then you could consider it.
I mean, I think it was also easier for us, right? When we started with Miro and working with Opportunity Solution Tree in that sort of like format to seeing all of the connections, I think our transition to Jira was easier because we started there instead of, for example, starting here. And another thing I think we can mention is that we transitioned from using Trello to Jira. And of course that this, I mean, one thing is the connection between the discovery and the delivery. I'm not quite sure that we would maybe choose this tool if we weren't using it for delivery as well.
Yeah, I think there is some appeal to everything being in one place, and especially those links back and forth. But I can see also, like, I think it was Carl who said that he wouldn't start here, right? Like the experience you had in Miro helped you understand the different pieces. And then it sounds like Jira Discovery doesn't give you those pieces. You had to create them, right? So if you're brand new to this, it's not really clear, here's where you put your opportunities, here's where you put your solutions. Because you were familiar with that model, you were able to recreate that in this tool.
Yeah,
exactly. We're hoping after this session, Teresa, that you're going to contact Atlassian and actually ask them to create a tree view here.
There you go. It sounds like there's a couple key things missing. Maybe nested categories would be helpful, and then of course that tree view of the links.
Yeah,
exactly.
And we still use Miro for a lot of stuff. Like we wouldn't brainstorm different. Like if we just start a new in a new area from scratch, this maybe isn't like the tool where you feel the most creative working here. So we use Miro still a lot for workshops and generating ideas and other stuff as well.
One of the things I see a lot of teams do is they like Miro for the visual view. And even with the opportunity solution tree, like if you wanted to keep some of that nested opportunities, and then what they do is on that Miro board, they link to some other tool where they're keeping track of assumption tests, opportunity sizing, all that extra stuff. I know a lot of people use Confluence for that, but it looks like this might be an even better tool for that, where you can have all your ideas collected by opportunity. You can add all the notes on the solutions. So that may also be a way for people to inch their way in this direction. If they're already using Miro, they can use this tool for that extra stuff that doesn't really fit on an opportunity solution tree.
I also just remember that like one, or I guess we didn't do that much, but I think one thing that's good here, that even if it's in Jira, it doesn't like it's still, I think we feel kind of free still to, add ideas, and you can add, our list is very long now, but you have filters and stuff, so you can filter out the things you don't want to look at the moment. But it doesn't feel like, creating a backlog in the sense that you have in your sprint board, or you're actually creating a backlog with tasks. Instead, you have this kind of more lightweight view where we can add and remove ideas. So I'm really happy. I think we did some backlog grooming recently, and we were able to remove tons of things in there because we had these things that were actually, it looked like a task, but it was actually an idea for a solution or something we should test more. So we were able to just remove a bunch of stuff there, add things here, but adding things here is easier and more lightweight, I would say. And I think that's how we're treating it, at least.
Yeah, that's great. It kind of, not only does it hold the ideas that are associated with your opportunities, but it can also just be your idea repository in general. That when you find they're connected to an opportunity, you just add the link and they're part of your tree now.
Yeah, and exactly. That's what we're thinking moving forward as well, because like we said in the beginning, previously we would create a completely new opportunity solution tree when we started working on a new goal or something. But now we're thinking, we don't need to throw any of this away if we're moving to a different area. We can just create a new view. We can filter out the stuff we don't want to look at right now, but maybe if we pick this up in a few months again, then we still have all the insights and with the assumption tests we did at that point and so on. So hopefully it will have that history of ideas to go back to as well.
And that was really challenging actually with Miro. We found ourselves it was hard to find, a lot of things we do are connected to each other. So sometimes we wanted to find things in older trees that we had worked with, and it was really challenging. The more trees we created, it was really hard to find them on different boards and so on. So I think this tool is also much easier from that perspective as well.
Yeah, I have that issue with Miro as well. I have an opportunity solution tree for every course that I have. And I often, I have a project where I keep them all, but it's still a little bit hard to be what's the right font? Unless I do a really good job of naming the boards. And even then, the nature of Miro is I'll be working on a tree and I'll have another idea, and so I'll just do it in the same board. And then when I want to go back and find that, it is impossible to find.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, that unstructured space is both the strength and the weakness, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, well, this has been fantastic. Is there anything that any of you would like to add before we wrap up?
No, just real quickly, I was thinking, Kalle, maybe you can just show there's the roadmap. We haven't used it that much, but there is a roadmap view as well. Maybe just click on it real quickly. Yeah.
So we have two different roadmap views here. The one called product roadmap is for everything that's here in all opportunities, but we haven't worked with that one that much because this My Home is the area that we've been focusing on more recently. So we do look at this once in a while, and this is on the opportunity level, so it's more high level than a specific solution. So it's more for any research we're gonna do, for any design or discovery that we want to do, what should we focus on next? And then we can use this view. But these are the same, it's using the same data as here. So it's just another way to view it, basically. So if we add anything to the opportunity itself here, it will show up in the roadmap as well and so on. So that's pretty good.
And that was one challenge we had with Miro, was like we were constantly like having to show like what's in progress, or understand like what's in progress and not in progress, and what's next up and so on. So I think from that perspective, this tool is also much easier.
Yeah, that's great. And is this a view that you're sharing with stakeholders and the rest of the organization?
Actually, it's not yet, but I think it's definitely something we can do. We're using that more. We have sort of a roadmap view on the company level that we use within Jira, but I think that we definitely could start using this with other stakeholders.
So
Okay.
that roadmap is even more high level than this one, right? This
Yeah,
is
exactly.
mid-high level somewhere.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like on the opportunity level, but we have a more zoomed out roadmap as well.
Because I know
Exactly.
that is one of the challenges with Miro. Like if you share a Miro board with stakeholders, it's really hard for them to get oriented. And right, like I tend to think about Miro as like, this is our collaboration space. And then we almost have to create a whole different set to then communicate it. And one of my ethos is like, I want to use the same documents I'm creating to collaborate to communicate. And so to have a tool that can pull out the highlights, I think is really helpful. It sounds like this has the potential, but you're not using it for that yet.
Exactly. I think, well, we are, but we're doing it in another project. We're using sort of the Jira in another project, but definitely I think it has that potential for sure.
Okay. Well, this has been incredibly helpful. I know people love to see how others are using tools, and especially this is not a tool specifically for opportunity solution trees, but I do think given Atlassian's reach, it's a tool a lot of teams have access to. And so I think they're going to get a lot of value out of being able to see how you've used it for this purpose. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this today.
Absolutely. Nice to be able to share. Thank you.